Welcome to Vision Plus, a program featuring a positive outlook, dealing with everyday situations of marriage, children, and business. Believing Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Teacher, author, speaker, delighting audiences from New York to Sacramento with a heart and message for the people today. Bonnie would like to remind you of the 800 number on the screen. Please feel free to call at any time throughout the broadcast and share your concerns. Leave your prayer request and someone will pray with you. And now, teacher, author, and speaker.
Welcome. You're watching Vision Plus. Without a vision, the people perish. You're going to hear from a man today that got a vision, probably one of the most unusual visions that you could ever want to do, and something you may want to do. I think of it when Philippians 3:13 it talks about when the Apostle Paul was talking about forgetting those things which are behind and reaching unto those things which are before. Well, it's getting time for us to make those New Year resolutions, and we like to think of what I call the SMART goals, and you may learn how you could do that. SMART being specific, M for measurable, A for attainable, R for realistic, and then time-oriented. Now, how did this young man do this? Let's find out if you've ever thought of taking a sabbatical from your job. I love preaching and teaching in university, because one thing you're allowed to do every 7 years is take a sabbatical and think about what you're doing. You want to go a different direction. You're happy the direction you go. Or is there something you'd like to change? And now this young man worked 19 years, as far as I understand it. That's a couple decades without taking his sabbatical. And you may have read about it in the Huntsville Times if you're in the Huntsville, Madison, North Alabama area, and November the 4th, where it talks about 32 days and 2,700 miles, and he called it in his blog, I believe it was Bald Man on a Bicycle?
Bald Guy on a Bicycle.
Bald Guy on a Bicycle. And help me welcome Lincoln Smith. Lincoln, here you were, just a very important part of the whole community of, well, especially Twickenham Church of Christ, but just being a part. Your wife Amy has been so busy with all the young people, and your children look to you as daddy. And so tell us a little bit about, you took a 2,700 square miles or mile trip across this United States. And I know a lot of places that you went to, and you wrote a blog. Mm-hmm. So first of all, why did you decide to do that?
Well, having been here a long time, the shepherds of the church came in, especially after this recent renovation that we had, and said, hey, look, we know you spent a lot of time, and you've been here a long time, and it's just time that you took some time away to refresh yourself, to renew yourself, and to do something epic maybe. And so they gave me 3 months off as we headed into the 19th year of ministry here. So I was very excited to think, hey, I'm not going to have to do anything for 3 months. But I had been kind of recreationally riding for a couple of years, and as I did that, was constantly reminded of, every time you go to ride, it was like, I got to be somewhere. I got 30 minutes, I got an hour, and I always thought it would be wonderful if you just had all day. Mm-hmm. You could just ride, didn't have a schedule, didn't have to be anywhere, and only had the open road in front of you. So I kind of developed a dream over a couple of years of doing something epic, and when this opportunity of time came forward, why I said, as part of the sabbatical, I'm going to try to ride across the country. So I planned this trip.
And you approached your wife and said, I want to take a bike ride across the country. And your children, and said, Dad, 3 months, you're going to be gone? What happened when you approached Amy about that?
Amy was very supportive.
Really?
Extremely supportive. Yeah.
Get out of here.
She's doing a little training of her own at the same time, as she was getting ready to run the Huntsville Marathon this year. Mm-hmm. So she was like, you do that and I'll do this, and it'll be a big year for us. And the kids were, okay, whatever. They were fine with whatever. So. But no, she was very supportive of it.
Good. So what do you think in your travels, that long, did you have anything unusual that happened that you didn't expect?
Yeah, all kinds of things. And
Give me an example.
well, I mean, when you go into something like this, I did a lot of research. You know, I purchased biking maps that are specially to give you a route across the country to where you're not on
You started in California.
San Diego. Uh-huh.
Your family took you to California.
Well, I just drove out there by myself.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I went to Lubbock, Texas, and then went on to San Diego. And it's a route called the Southern Tier. It's kind of a well-known, well-traveled bike route from San Diego to St. Augustine, Florida. And you go in with a lot of, you know, I expected some things, but you come out with a lot of things that you never imagined would happen. A lot of unusual things. You don't expect to see that many dead animals on the side of the road, for instance. A lot of roadkill out there that I wasn't expecting. But,
The Forrest Gump of the bicycle.
well, yeah, I guess so. Except I didn't turn around and come back after I got done. But anyway, yeah, just a lot of different things in terms of weather conditions, heat, road conditions, I mean, you name it, all kinds of different things that we saw out there.
Now, you were there going, and then you hit the bottom and said, called your wife and
Well,
said,
yeah, well, right out of the chute, the first day out, I had traveled all day to get to San Diego, drove all night, turned in a rental car, started on my way. The first day is one of the hardest days of the whole trip because you leave from the ocean, sea level, and go 4,000 feet to elevation 4,000 feet over the first 75 miles. And I had some cramping issues that I wasn't prepared for, where the body just really kind of locked down and shut down. And I ended up having to stop, and I called Amy. I said, hey, I'm not going to make where I thought I was. And she said, well, just get a hotel. So I tried to get a hotel, and I went in and I said, I'm in bad shape. I need some help here. I'm cramping up. I'm on a bike trip. I just started, but I'm going to have to stop for the night. And the hotel guy said, we don't have any rooms.
oh,
And I mean, it's the only hotel in town. I'm all by myself. I'm 2,000 miles from home. Just started this thing, and I'm already ready to be done. But Amy was able to call ahead and find a motel, and I was able to finally get there and get in for the night.
you had to go farther.
Yeah. And I, you know,
Tired and hurting.
again, and that's one of those unexpected things, because I had never had that problem physically. But I don't know if it was the anxiety or the tension or the physical or the elevation, but all of it just kind of added up. And so I made it through.
The air is a lot lighter, too.
Well, it's just a lot hotter. And the second day, I made it to where we needed to be that night. And the second day, I went from 4,000 feet back down to less than sea level.
Why
down
did
in
you
the
set
California
yourself
Valley.
goals of being a certain place? Here you are back again with your schedule.
You don't have that many choices.
Well,
See, I was credit card touring, so I wasn't camping.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't have any. I couldn't stop on the side of the road. So I had to get to wherever the next city was, where there's a hotel. And to be honest with you, there's a lot of places, especially out west, where there's some pretty big distances between the places that you can stop. So you kind of had to plan accordingly. And if it's 80 miles to the next place where there's
You
a hotel,
gotta
then
make
you got
it.
to go 80 miles. So,
Because you went to California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. Well, actually, these are the places you stopped, isn't it?
well, those are all the states that I rode through. And it was kind of interesting as I did some stats later on. I stayed 11 nights in the state of Texas.
Really?
And the next closest state for number of nights was 4. There were 4 nights in New Mexico, 4 nights in Arizona, 4 nights in Florida, and then 11 nights. Tells you how big Texas is.
Oh, yeah.
Big state.
We
Not a
live
lot
there.
out in West Texas. So, yeah.
And it was because Tony had started a business down in the valley, Brownsville, McAllen area, and it took him one day to get his street sweepers up to Dallas. We said, this is not a good plan to be
Right.
that far to get to the next place. So that's where it was with you.
It's a big state. It's a big country, and you know most people, when you tell them I want to ride across the country on a bike, they can't imagine that because it seems like such a large undertaking that most of us just don't have the capacity to think about something that big. You know, we live in a fast service, fast food, fast society. We want things now. But if you have enough time to apply to something, it
Well,
just
you
takes
always
32
seem-
days to make it across the
You
country.
always seem like the person that wanted right now too. Let's
Yeah.
get this right.
And that happened to me, especially as I got closer to the end. Now, after starting, hoping to complete after the first couple of days, I wasn't sure I'd ever finish. I was just trying to get to the next thing. Amy decided after day 2 that she was going to come out,
Mm-hmm.
so she flew out and met me after my second day, and then she drove a support car for 5 days. And at that point, I said, "Well, I'm just going to. You're here. You spent the money to get here. I'm going to try to get to Phoenix."
Mm-hmm.
So I set a goal of Phoenix.
You and it.
Well, I got to Phoenix, and another guy from church here, Jamie Kimball, decided that he was going to take a few days off and come see me. So he came out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I felt like, well, I got to stay until as long as Jamie's here. So we stayed there a little bit longer, and then Brad and Ben came. So it kind of got into this thing where people kept coming and spending time with me. And before I knew it, I was getting closer over there. But after you get a little bit further east, it gets a lot easier. So.
Well, now you've done this, which is probably one of the most unusual things that most of the people of us in the world have not traveled by bicycle that far, or Forrest Gump and his running for days and days, or even I've been across country and go see all those things, spoke at all the cities in California, and yet, what do you think changed in you now? Did you come back and it was like, oh me, back to the teaching all these people how to sing?
I don't think you can devote yourself to something like that and not be completely unchanged. And there are certainly, small things that you learn along the way.
What are some of the small things?
Well, I mean, when I left, I had panniers on my bike to carry my gear, and so the bike weighed 70 or 80 pounds. When I had a support car with me and I didn't have to carry those bags, the bike only weighs 25 pounds with all the stuff I had on it. So you learn quickly that it's a lot easier to ride with all that weight.
Oh, it's easier.
Oh, yeah.
With the weight.
No, without the weight.
Oh, well, I started to
There
say
you
I
go.
didn't understand.
And that's one of those things. I was riding one day and I thought, it's just so much easier without having to carry these bags. And I thought, life's like that a lot of times. We carry around a lot of bags with us, things that have happened to us, bad experiences, and life would be a lot easier for us if we'd say, that's done, that's over with, I can leave that behind and
That's
move
what
on.
the Apostle Paul, leaving those things which are behind, going forward.
So that's one of the
I
things.
think that even in marriages or any relationship, you bring that baggage, and I remember one time one of the preachers had a line of baggage behind him, and he would bring that along. Well, he was going to use that illustration again, and the people like yourself on the staff decided to fill it with rocks, and they filled the luggage with rocks, and he didn't know that.
So he got a really good illustration, more than he bargained for.
More than he bargained for.
Yeah.
But we do, until we think, well, this way it was when I was back home, and you could think of that. Now, what about going to church? Did you get to go to different churches throughout?
I was out. I never knew where I was going to be.
Uh-huh.
And which was a good perspective, because rather than being in a regular church service, institutional, body, I tried to do communion, on Sunday wherever I was, and spend some time in the Word. And so I remember one of my buddies from Texas, Jason Brooks, was with me, and we had communion in a hotel room on a Sunday after we got in. And it was just kind of good to be in a different environment, but still focusing on the things that are important. Remember to take time to remember what Christ has done through us, and so that was good.
Yeah. Well, what about your blog? Now, you blog every day or about every day?
No, every day. Yeah,
every day. Now, how did you discipline yourself to do that? We took a trip around the world speaking, and our son went with us, and he was disciplined to write every day. But I wasn't. It was so easy to skip a day.
Well, for one thing, once you get done riding, what else are you going to do? I mean, if you've ridden for 8 hours, you're pretty much hanging out in the hotel room and just kind of recovering from the day. And I had purchased an iPad, which made it really easy because I could carry that with me. It's light, but I was able to do the blog. And, I wanted the experience. I knew that being gone for 3 months after having been here for 18 years, that people would want to have some insight into what was going on.
Certainly.
And so I decided, I was going to do this. I was going to make myself do it. And one of the shepherds, Lee Potts, had mentioned, he goes, if you blog, you're always going to have a record of it. And it'll be stuff that you'll forget later on. And so you'll always have to be able to go back and look at it.
That is so true.
So I just put the blog together. But as soon as I did, and I realized how many people were just tuning in every night. I had people saying, I'm sitting on the computer waiting for your blog to come in. I can't go to bed until I find it. Was like a sitcom or something that they had to see the next episode or know what happened today. So
it was a mini-series.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, and I loved it when you talked about Christina Buddha, and that was so precious to all of us. Because she got the breast cancer, and she was like you. My niece got the breast cancer, and her hair came out. My daughter has it too. But my brother is bald. His son is bald naturally, not keep it shaved like you do, and hers was bald, so they had their pictures made together, where 3 bald heads together, and she said, but I'm the prettiest one. In other words, she still found humor in that. And so what made you think about Christina on that trip?
Well, I never, going out there, I thought was something for me.
Right.
It didn't occur to me that this was going to be inspirational. I just never...
We're all of us.
Yeah, I never went out thinking, oh, wow, people are going to get excited about this. I'm just on a bike, It's just no big deal. But when she, wrote in, and I had written, I think, that day or the day before that I was kind of struggling through this thing and pedaling every mile. And it gets to be It gets to be a drag out there for 8 hours in the seat of a bicycle, up and down and up and down. So,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, anyway, for her to say that I inspired her, it was just kind of okay. This is great for me, but if there are other people who get something out of this, that's a bigger deal. So if I can do something that's going to help somebody through a situation like that, how much, what's more important, me on a bike or her fighting cancer? Her fighting cancer.
Right.
Way greater. But if I can inspire her, and likewise, that she would fight that battle and, and in a way inspire me.
Yes.
Kept me going several times.
It's so amazing. There's 3 of us together, mothers, that have daughters with breast cancer. And none of us, or my mother, my grandmother, nobody in the family ever had it. Don't understand some of the things. I don't know about Christina, if her mom or grandmother, whatever, had it. But sometimes you have to go it alone like you did on your bike trip. You had no one to say, well, I did that 3 years ago, 10 years ago. You had...
but
you called your wife and said, "Send my brother here, pick me up."
There were a couple of times.
He's never done this, has he? No. Have you inspired anybody else other than us? Let's get on our bikes. Tony and I ride our bikes every day about a couple miles.
There were some people along the way who were like, "Yeah, I got out and did this today," or "I got out and did this today," or "So and so got their bike out and they're riding," or "They're running," or whatever. So yeah, some of that happened, but I didn't. I didn't really do it by myself. And I'm not sure I would have finished by myself. If I had to start from San Diego and come all the way by myself, I don't know that I would have made it. It was people coming out and helping me and supporting me was one of the only ways that I got through it. Because
did you have a chance to make some new friends?
You meet interesting people.
Yes, but are you now emailing back and forth or blogging or anything?
I haven't kept up too much with anybody, but there was some back and forth for a while. I met a guy over in Texas who was just out riding down the highway one day who had a great story. I met a couple of guys in...
what was his great story?
Well, he was in a similar situation. I wrote about it on one of the blogs. He was training to ride a 2-day, 150-mile race that's a benefit for... I think it's a cancer benefit.
150 miles in 2 days?
Yeah, 75 a day. And he was an older gentleman, and his daughter has that circumstance for the fund that he was riding for. And so he was kind of riding to support her.
Like multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, and that was an encouraging day. I ran into 2 guys in Phoenix, Arizona. I had just told Amy the day before, I said, kind of riding by yourself is just kind of a drag after a while. I said, it'd be nice to have somebody just to ride with. And that very morning, when I left the hotel, this guy went by me on a bike. I'm in the middle of Phoenix, Arizona, 6 o'clock in the morning. And so I started following him, and we started I stopped, and he was riding the exact same model, make, and color of bike, Surly, that I ride, and it was just like, nice bike, and he goes, yeah, nice bike, and so we start talking, come to find out he's going to meet a guy, they're riding to Tucson, and they're going the same way I am for 40 miles, would I like to ride with them? And so we went and stopped at his friend's house and picked him up, and I rode 40 miles with those guys, and it was just another one of those experiences. Super nice guys. I had a flat tire. They helped me change it. So you meet a lot of
That's
interesting
quite
people.
a trip just from Phoenix to Tucson.
They rode 125 miles
Yeah,
that
I
day, and
was
then 120
thinking
miles back.
Tucson, and then I went to Phoenix to one of our meetings, and I opened my eyes, and there was Purple Mountain Majesty. I'd always wondered, where did that sentence come from? And there it was, in between Tucson and Phoenix in the mountains. It was so incredibly beautiful. I bet you have some pictures
Oh, yeah.
in your mind, and also
Yeah.
you probably took a lot of pictures.
About 1,400 pictures.
14.
And when people were with me, they took pictures. They took a lot more pictures than I did. It's hard to take a picture on a bicycle.
Yeah.
You got to stop every time. So anyway, yeah, and I saw, well, and whoever was with me at the time, we saw some great stuff. There's
What are some of the great stuff?
When I at one point had to climb to over 8,000 feet in New Mexico, and the mountains up there, in spite of the work that it was to do that kind of ascent, the mountains were fantastic in New Mexico. They were beautiful.
Now, what part? Did you come through the Albuquerque area?
No, way
Or
south of
southern?
there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, down through Silver City,
Yes, we've
and
been
then
there.
and then
Our daughter actually saved a person's life there when a house was on fire.
across the Continental Divide between Lordsburg, New Mexico, and Silver City, New Mexico, and then after that went up to over 8,000 feet before coming down and hitting right there by the interstate and going into Las Cruces. So it was southern New Mexico.
Yes, I know where all those are.
And then right down into El Paso, which wasn't quite so pretty down in El Paso.
But they have some great hotels in El Paso.
Yeah.
So did you get to spend the night there?
No, I rode on through El Paso that particular day. We stopped the other side.
Mhm. When you say we, because your wife was
Well, at that point,
and-
that particular day was actually I left. I was by myself the day I rode down to El Paso, and Jamie Kimball met me in El Paso that night. I had been with Brad Bass and Ben Logan that day,
Right,
earlier
so
that
sweet.
day. They left me that early that morning. They had to go back and catch a plane,
Yes.
and I went on by myself.
Now, what do you think that you will carry with you the rest of your life that you glean from this?
It's lonely out there when you're by yourself. You don't realize it. And I know that there's a lot of people who they need to take advantage of relationships and time. You can do, if you just devote time to something, you can accomplish anything. How do you ride across the country? Well, if you've got 32 days, you can do it. You can't do it in a day. You can't do it in a week. But if you can devote 32 days of time, of your time to it, you can accomplish it. And it doesn't matter what it is. You can learn to play the piano if you give it enough time and practice. You can learn to sew a rug. You can learn to whatever. It's just a matter of time. But we really struggle to devote that much time to things.
Well, it's not only time, but it's determination and commitment.
Sure,
I see that
sure.
in you, and the Holy Spirit guiding you through all of these times. I bet you prayed a lot, didn't you?
And a lot of times, prayed out loud sometimes. Get me through this, or give me a tailwind, or whatever it was. But you just got to keep going.
New Mexico. Tony made highway equipment street sweepers, and I was driving one to Seattle, and going through there from Fort Worth to El Paso, driving a street sweeper. And I'm singing at the top of my lungs, there is no one anywhere that I can see. And a policeman gave me a ticket, pulled me over, and there wasn't a way I could hurt anybody anywhere. But I wasn't watching the speed. I thought, man, I'm just driving.
Having too much fun singing.
Yeah. I sang every church song here or what. And not some you're having us to learn now. These were the old ones.
The old ones.
old book. How do you think you will do differently now here at church and in your life? Are you is this a book? Can I help you write it? I can help you write it.
You know, not to get so uptight up about things, not to get so worked up about things.
Mhm.
Things will take care of themselves as they need to.
Mhm.
And I probably have less tolerance for people who want to be petty about things.
Mhm.
Just, I don't have time for nonsense anymore,
Uh-huh.
you know?
Are you able to tell them that in a way that you don't turn them off, but maybe they get the idea?
I hope so, but some people may need to get turned off, you know?
That's right. What about your children? Tell us what they said. Did they just hang on every word?
You
Did
know-
they read your blog every day?
They did read the blog and would reply back, and I don't know how much was impressed upon them. I hope, you know, they're kids. I don't know how much of that they completely absorbed,
Oh,
but
that's
hopefully,
40 years
Yeah,
now, they're
yeah.
going to be telling, my dad drove bicycle from San Francisco, from San Diego.
I hope if nothing else that it inspires them to do something epic of their own at some point
Yes,
someday.
just
Whether it's
hope.
riding a bike or whether it's something else, but
Just
do something big.
So it took, what all did it take? Took a plan,
Took a plan.
and then agreement from lots of people,
Sure.
wife and children
Yeah, had to
and
have some things come
staff.
together.
And then it took not only the plan and the time and the sabbatical to do this, but after 19 years you deserved it.
Well-
But it also took determination and courage. I mean, I bet you hardly slept the night before you were going to drive out to San Diego.
You're exactly right. It was a very anxious time.
Why did I ever start this?
And I would love to go again now.
Oh, you
Oh, I
would?
would love to. I'd go back tomorrow.
Okay.
Especially because I know I can do it and I know what to expect. No, I would. I would go back in a
What do
heartbeat.
you think you could expect? What are some of the things?
I would know how to expect the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
I would know how to not be so driven to get finished, but to stop and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I would know where all the good places are and the bad places.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you
What
know,
are
just
some
those kinds.
good places?
Some of the good places. Silver City, New Mexico is a good
Yeah.
place.
Uh-huh.
Alpine, Texas, a good
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
A lot of lonely places out there.
Mhm.
A lot of stretch of lonely road out there. So
And what are some of the bad places?
bad place. There's no bad places. There's some places where it's really hot.
Oh, okay.
There's some
Well,
places
in
where it's really
Phoenix-
steep.
I'm telling you, in Phoenix, I have walked where the sidewalk was so hot that it came through your shoes,
Mhm.
that it just burned like, I can't get
It
on
was-
there.
it was hot in
It's
Arizona.
not like I was
It was
walking
hot
on
in
those
Arizona.
coals. The good book says we can't walk on the hot coals. But, so what are, did you get some ideas of other things you want to do other than
Wow.
go back now, what to expect?
I have the idea that I'd like to go again and take my wife,
All right.
and she's kind of agreed to that. So
Okay.
maybe
What about
someday
the-
when we
what about
retire,
the
we'll go
children?
do that. We'd have to wait until they were, I don't know.
So give us a overview in the last 60 to 90 seconds of this, how it impacted and empowered you.
Again, if you put your mind to something, if you dedicate yourself to something, if you commit to something, you can achieve virtually anything. It's just a matter of giving it the time and staying with it. And I'm trying to do that more in a lot of different ways in my life, and will in coming days.
Keep on keeping on.
There you go.
Just let it happen. Well, I'm proud of you, and I think it's really great that you did that.
Thank you.
Lincoln Smith to encourage us. I loved your mother so much. And, she promised to do a television show with me, and
Never got to.
never got to. We have to remember that.
Mhm.
She died with, what kind of cancer did she?
She had fallopian tube cancer.
Oh, she was a sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
Love going to retreats with her. Well, I'm Bonnie Liphart with Tony Liphart and Lincoln Smith on location here at Twickenham Church of Christ, and we are delighted you joined us. Bless your heart. Watching.